Fitz, I want to ask you this as an extended segue to our next topic here in Read and React, and that is the receiver board, something that I think I've harped on a little bit. I don't want to hit it too much, but at the same time, no receivers in this class won the previous year. I understand 2022 was a big class, but how important is it for the team to be able to find one of those guys that they're really looking for and actually bring in a guy that is a class-leading player for the class of 2024, with everything James Franklin talked about during the spring about finding guys that can be playmakers on the outside and can provide that explosive value to the game. I don't think he was just talking about this team that spring. That seems to me more of a tentpole sort of, this is what we need going forward. So none in this class so far. How do you feel about that heading into what you just described?
Yeah, you got to get to June right now, because you've got to get those official visits in there, and sort of that's kind of how you shape your board is guys like Chance Robinson. Can you get him up? Although he's a Miami commit now. Nick Marsh, a very important target for Penn State, and a guy that you seem to be on the rise for, I guess you would say. So you've got that opportunity. Jalen Hornsby, we've talked about him before. So not taking guys just to take guys, but you got to get to June so you can get those guys on campus, and then you see some movement. As I said, would have expected maybe one by now, but that hasn't happened that way. So if you're Marcus Higgins, you get those guys to June, get them on campus, get them in your room, sort of get them a taste of what you bring to the table as a position coach, and go from there. It's not, they're not in the best spot right now, but they have an opportunity to salvage it, and they're gonna be okay. They're gonna end up getting receivers at the end of the day. It's just not stretching yourself to take one right now. So we're going to see where he does. He's got a job ahead of him, no doubt about it.
Ryan, speaking of receivers, you spoke, or I should say you wrote about over at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com quite a bit about Nick Marsh the last week or so. So just give us a rundown on what Penn State fans can go read about over there, and your opinion of how everything stacks up with I'm assuming that's their top target at this point, right?
Certainly one of their top three, I would say. I mean, easily, definitely could say top three. I think Ryan Wingo is a guy that I don't expect to end up at Penn State, but I mean, he's very high on their list as well. And Chance Robinson's very high on their list as well. I mean, I think we can certainly make the case that Nick Marsh is their number one guy, but I feel safer saying those are just kind of the top three. They're all very good receivers. What I would say is, so first off, shout out to our coworker, Zach Libby. He went to their school last week, did extensive interview with Nick Marsh and his head coach, and shared that information with us, shared all those quotes, and that's what we wrote up. Going into that, Sean, you had talked to Nick more than I had leading into that. And just listening to the whole interview, listening to what the coach had to say. Before that, I thought, okay, Penn State's trending here. They did a good job getting him on campus. There's work to be done. By the time I was done listening to that interview and listening to what the coach had to say, and also talked to one or two people, I feel pretty good saying Penn State is probably top two right now with Michigan State. This feels like a situation to me where Auburn has work to do. And then the other two schools seem to be in the mix are Kansas and Oregon. And I do think all five are going to get official visits. That's something that's kind of come out after the Under Armour Columbus camp this past weekend, which was a week after this interview was done. I believe Kansas is going to squeeze a midweek in there, and it sounds like Oregon might get them that second week in June. But he already decommitted from Michigan State too, right? So how many times do guys decommit from a school and recommit? Those percentages are low. Not saying it won't happen in this situation, but that's something to keep an eye on as well. So I think Penn State fans should feel good about this situation. The one thing, again, I'll come back to say, as we've said before, is Auburn, Michigan State, Oregon. They're the other three schools I'm taking serious. No disrespect to Kansas, although I guess that's disrespectful. But what do those three schools have in common? They are all massively aggressive with NIL. It doesn't sound like Michigan State's being as aggressive this year as they were last year. We'll see how that plays out in the long run. But all three of them have been very, very aggressive. So I don't want to put too much stock in saying, yeah, Penn State should be the favorite here right now, because I think once you get close to commitment time, which for Nick Marsh is July 7th, that's when schools start talking about money a little bit more. Yeah. And, that's where the drama will be.
Yeah, that's where the hard decisions, you got to actually make decisions, and that's going to factor in, it seems. So Xander asked this, continuing the receiver conversation, Tyser Denmark is with Oregon as a commit. Is Penn State still? This was one I think that you guys talked about before. Tyser Denmark, they're not going to stop recruiting him, just like Luke Kromenhoek at Florida State, even though those guys have been locked in and have, put out all the graphics of locked in 100% closed recruit. Like, they're still going to be talking to these guys, right? So this recruiting of Tyser Denmark isn't stopping at any time soon, right,
No.
Fitz?
No, they won't stop soon. And it's a situation where if you get him back on campus, you're not going to hear about it until he's on campus. That's kind of what happened last time is it got out there and Oregon kind of squashed that one. And, which is the same thing that Penn State would do. It's the same thing any school would do. If their commit was visiting anywhere else, try and make it not happen. Oregon was successful. We will continue to see. It's a long way until signing day. I still obviously think that Oregon's the team to beat and the school that is the odds on favorite for the signature, but it's long distance, long time. Those things usually work and guys find their way onto other campuses. So we'll see what happens with Denmark. They're still recruiting him. Absolutely. He's an in-state prospect that they really, really like. He's got, stuff to focus on academically, but at the same time, he's tremendously talented. So you've got to keep up with that, and they've done so. But I think a lot of that is going to be done sort of under the rug